Hey, folks, welcome to Chapter 3 of the NASM 7th edition Personal Trainer Certification textbook. And Chapter 3 is the first of the two chapters in Section 2. Now, remember, NASM calls it Section 2, but it is the second of 6 domains of information. That's the way they describe it. So if you're looking and seeing different terminology such as domain 1, domain 2, etc., Section 2 is, quote, domain 2. If you take the exam and you fail it, just as a for instance, you will receive a sheet of paper that tells you of the 6 domains, how well you did percentage-wise in each one. And again, they'll use the term domain. So anytime you see one of the 6 domains, it's the same thing as what the textbook calls a section. So Domain 2, Section 2, Client Relations, Behavioral Coaching, Chapters 3 and 4. Chapter 3 is probably, from the perspective of the number of questions that are going to be asked from this particular domain, the lesser of the two chapters, although you will see a fair number of questions. So Chapter 3 is, in a sense, a general overview of the psychology of exercise. So, as always, first thing you want to do is, as soon as you start on a new chapter, go to the end of the chapter. And in this case, I'm going to go to the end of Chapter 3, which begins on page 80. Again, if you're on the online textbook, they're not going to give you page numbers, but you can use the search box and you'll be able to get to it. Obviously, pretty easy to navigate, by the way, when you're using that the online textbook. But page 80, remember, start with your summary. Read the summary. It's just a paragraph, not a bad. Again, this is the most efficient way to deal with the materials that we're talking about in each of these chapters. So read your summary, then read your chapter review. Again, when you're doing your summary and your chapter review, it's with your pens down. That's all it is. Just read through it. You're not taking notes on the summary. You're not taking notes on a chapter review. You pick up the pen and you grab your sheet of paper for note-taking when you hit the chapter highlights. This is where I recommend that you look at each one of the bulleted points, and there's a bunch of them, but better to work your knowledge acquisition right from the get-go. So spend more time actually rewriting these bullet points. But remember, look at their bullet point and ask yourself a question. Is that the sort of bare minimum that you can crush the information down to still make it meaningful and to memorize? And what I'm saying is that if it's a sentence and it's 12 words, can you compress their compressed information even smaller to something that's easy to memorize? And again, I'll give you an example. So the first bullet point here on page 81 is psychology is an important component to behavior change and plays a key role in adopting a regular habit to exercise. So my first thought is, okay, how can I get rid of some of these words, the actual words physically in the sentence, to crush this down to a smaller sentence or just a couple of words and terms? Psychology, important for behavioral change, plays a key role, regular habits for exercise, something like that. I've basically, probably just by saying it that way, I've removed half the words in the sentence. Remember, when you're writing to memorize material, nobody cares about your grammar and nobody cares that your sentences are incomplete or you don't have enough proper clauses and conjunctions. Nobody cares. That's not why you're doing it. You are doing this to make it easy for you to remember. So in some cases, we can do what's known as an irreducible minimum to again crush a sentence down to 2 or even 3 words. Let's try it again. Psychology is an important component to behavior change and plays a key role in adopting a regular habit to exercise. I can now look to reduce this irreducible minimum to get the words that I know are going to help me memorize the sentence without using all of these words in the sentence. So, psychology, important to behavior change. See what I did? Psychology, important behavior change. Now I got rid of I got rid of like 4 words, and I still know what the meaning is. Psychology, important behavior change, to behavior change, something like that. Key role, adopting, or key role, regular exercise. I don't have to say regular habit to exercise, regular exercise. So what I'm doing is I'm still maintaining the meaning of the sentence, but I'm reducing it down to the bare minimum number of words or concepts, or what we call a clause, if you want to use multiple words, to still get the meaning of the sentence, but it's easier to remember. That's what the irreducible minimum is designed to do. Okay. And again, you do that for all of these. Does it take a little time? Yes, of course it does, but you're putting a lot more time up front so that ultimately your total time spent is actually reduced versus reading. Remember, don't read this like a novel. Go back and hit the material that is critical for passing the exam. So let's move down. I'll give you another example. Lack of time can be minimized by improving time management and re-evaluating daily priorities. Well, I mean, that just makes sense on its head. So lack of time can be minimized, minimize time, improve time management, re-evaluate priorities, something like that. All I'm doing is removing a couple of words here and there, crush it down, and you can spend even more time if you'd like doing that. Okay, let's do this because there is on page 82 the last bullet points. Let's look at the last bullet point just as an example. Exercise provides several psychological benefits that can enhance overall well-being. Okay, exercise has benefits for well-being. I don't need exercise provides several psychological benefits. Exercise provides some benefits, enhance well-being, including improved mood, right? So I don't have to say including improved mood, irreducible minimum, get rid of the word including. Better sleep. I don't need quality. So better sleep. So including improved mood, better mood, sleep quality or sleep, self-esteem, body image, depression, anxiety symptoms. Okay. Because I'm writing those without all the other extraneous words and amplifying adjectives, things like that, there's less words for me to memorize, but I still retain the meaning. So I hope that makes sense. So now that doesn't take very long to do that. It only took me a couple of minutes. So let's go ahead and start at the beginning of chapter 3 to get a better idea of what you really need to know from this chapter from a testing perspective. Right off the bat, as soon as you start at the beginning of the chapter, what are you going to do? You're going to look over on the side panels and you are going to write down those words that are in blue in the copy, and that they have over to the side with a definition. Once again, same thing. Write down the word and see if you can look at the definition and compress it down to an easier, more manageable couple of words or phrase or whatever the case is, if you can. For instance, the definition of psychology, an area of science that focuses on people, and in particular, how the mind and feelings may influence behaviors. It's one of the skills that is going to help you more than anything else, is when you can take a concept that somebody else has given you and crush it down, reduce it to its bare minimum number of words that still retain the effective meaning, but allow you to memorize it better. So that's what you're going to do here with psychology. Adherence, nothing on the right side. And so you got your paper that you're writing on. You could look at the learning objectives, of course. By the way, one of the other ways, if you have more time to study, you can break your study strategy if you like to do a lot of writing and put things in logistical or logical sequences and orders, is use your heading titles. So the role of psychology in fitness and wellness. Underneath that, you would put the science of psychology. Underneath that, motivation. And then underneath motivation as a subheading, or the 2 types of motivation. You could do that, but nevertheless, let's start at the beginning. You do have a stretch your knowledge box again, not a bad idea to at least read through it. If you find something interesting in there, you can write that down as well. Again, you're not going to see lots of questions coming from a stretch your knowledge box. Getting technical, wouldn't be worried about that on page 61. Again, do not read the science of psychology. It's not necessary. They're going to give you the necessary compressed information that you're going to need from a overall testing perspective. I get to page 62, motivation, socioeconomic status, a motivation. Some of these, by the way, are going to be fairly easy to understand and memorize. I do recommend, though, that you write it down no matter what. Always write it down. Better to use the read, write, recite sort of technique than not use it when you're going through the material. So you are going to hit a critical box. I would highly recommend you read that. It's just a paragraph, not difficult to at least read and appreciate. Figure 3.1 is just the same thing as you're going to see on your side panels, except it gives you some examples. So intrinsic motivation. I like to exercise because I enjoy taking care of my health and well-being. It's not like you're going to memorize figure 3.1. Again, I think in chapter 3, there is a fair amount of I guess I could use the word common sense information. And your job is to, again, memorize the terminology, some of the concepts, and then you'll notice we are going to get to some, not on these 2 pages, 64, 65, but you're going to get to some bullet points and a couple of tables. Those are the areas you want to focus on from a studying perspective. Getting technical, not necessary. Helpful hint. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. They got the little thumb up thing, so you might want to read that. It's just it's a sentence, 1 or 2 sentences. In this case, it's a 2-sentence, 3-sentence. Stretch your knowledge once again. You see how you're flying through the material. You're not going to be taking notes on the written copy that they have here. You're going to be focusing now again on, there it is, table 3.1, types of goals. Now that's important information. You should know that. And I would say that that in this case, it's pretty simple. What is an outcome goal versus a process goal, right? Outcome goal, place in top 10 in a 10K race, right? The focus is on what the outcome is. So you win, you lose, what your time is, things like that, versus what's called process goals, jogging for 45 minutes each day for 3 days a week, something like that, starting at 6:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. But look, you've got those definitions on the side panel. There is a training tip box from a testing perspective, not really that important. Now you get onto page 67, lack of social support. Look, they give you bullet points. I always stop. When I see bullet points, I always stop. There's a reason they gave you bullet points, because instead of writing it out in a sentence or a paragraph, they're saying, stop, slow down. Here's a list of information that you may want to know. So page 67, table 3.1 is a good, very simple. Come on. I mean, it's a very simple table to look at and appreciate. I don't think there's anything difficult about differentiating between the outcome or process goals. Social support. Individuals without social support may lack the following advantages. So basically, these are advantages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 advantages. Okay. People that lack social support don't have those. It's a little convoluted, I guess, but point is that if you have social support, you have the encouragement to participate. If you have social support, you have someone or more than one person who can discuss the challenges of exercise. But people that lack it, these are the things they're lacking. Great. That's a great test question, by the way. So just heads up for that. Social, physique, anxiety. That's your definition right there. Page 68 gives you 4 more bullet points. See what I'm doing? I'm working through the chapter and I'm trying to memorize those very targeted, precise areas that that NASM has said you may want to know this. That's why we have bullet points. That's why we have tables. Is collapsing more information into an easier to digest, academically digest material. So figure 3.2 is just a visual. Ambivalence. Key concept to understand: describes a person's state of mixed feelings about a situation. Generally, we talk about ambivalence being like, I love you, I hate you, right? It's this conflicting positive, negative feelings you have about something or a person, ideas, concepts, behaviors, things like that. When people are ambivalent about something, they do have a conflicting set of emotions about it. So, and there is a try this box, take some time to identify barriers, move on from that. Page 70, there is a critical box. Definitely want to at least read that. Good information there. Instrumental support, what is it? Now, see, here is where we start to understand, or at least you can start to understand and appreciate how NASM is actually gearing you towards critical information. Table 3.2, perfect example. You need to know table 3.2. So basically all I say is memorize table 3.2, or at least understand what the different types of support are: instrumental, emotional, informational, companionship. How do you memorize tables? Any number of ways to do it. My recommendation is can you see that? Draw a box and then just mimic the box and type of support. Draw a line down. Instrumental, providing transportation to a fitness facility. Oh, that's interesting. See, I would think that would have been companionship. No, that is instrumental. Okay, so memorize these examples of those types of support. Why? Because that is exactly the type of questions they're going to ask you. But I would write down instrumental, emotional, informational, companionship. Write down those, by the way, write down those examples. Those are the ones that they will literally give you on the test. So it's a good idea to know those, and then do it again, and then do it again, and write it over and over until it's really clear that you have memorized this information. Helpful hint: when recalling the purpose of social support, keep in mind that there are always two components to consider: who and what. It's not a bad idea to know that. Who is providing the support, and what type of support is given. Okay, that's what this helpful hint box is actually telling you how to deal with the table 3.2. What is emotional support? You should be able to at least understand what emotional support is, not only from the definitional perspective, but what it looks like, of course, in the real world. And again, page 72, empathy, informational support, companionship support. You should memorize those. That's the whole point of table 3.2. It's sort of fleshing it out for you over here. So stretch your knowledge. Training tip: you'll notice I'm not reading through this, not necessary to read it. And of course, I say that to help you understand that from a purely testing perspective. If you want to read the material, by all means, read it. But that means you've got a lot more time to study. And always keep in mind, reading, like you're reading a novel, is not studying. You're not studying when you read it and you go, wow, that's really interesting. Ooh, group influences on, oh, that is very interesting. That's not studying, because as soon as you read it and go to the next page, you pretty much forgot what you read. So the only way you make reading a productive study tool is by rewriting whatever it is you read. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but that is an inefficient use of your time when it comes to really honing in on what's needed to be studied. Boom, now you come over to page 75, and what do you got? Components of leadership, table 3.3. You're going to do the same thing like you did with table 3.2. Components of leadership, leaders' qualities, leaders' styles, situational factors, followers' qualities. Look at the examples and make sure they make sense and you understand them, and that's going to help you to memorize it. Okay. So now you're moving on, table 3.4. Do you see, in a sense, I can get you to essentially get the gist of this entire chapter. Well, not the whole thing, but the majority of the chapter with 3 tables. Because what's the benefit of group exercise? Now I'm going to do the reasons, all of these guys, and what their benefits are. If you want, once again, remember what I did with the chapter, the chapter reviews in the back of each of these chapters is the bullet pointed component of the reviews is the same thing. Look at the sentence, this benefit, accountability. Being part of an exercise group brings accountability for regular attendance, both from members of the group and the exercise leader. Now, I got to kind of think about that for a second. What is the irreducible minimum? How can I get rid of most of those words to make accountability make more sense? Being part of an exercise group brings accountability for regular attendance. Okay. Groups bring accountability for attendance. I don't need the word regular. I already know, since I'm using the word attendance, that is the main idea is attendance. Members of the group and exercise leader, both from members of the group and exercise leader. I don't think I need that. Not when it comes to understanding the concept of accountability, which is basically the idea of being a part of a group, right? Gets people to hold each other accountable, right, for being there at the right time, right day, or whatever the case. But just keep that in mind when you are moving towards a minimum or minimal number of words needed to maintain the meaning of the sentence while allowing you to compress it down for easier memorization. That's the whole point of the irreducible minimum. And you would do that, obviously, for all of these reasons. Training tip, sure, if you want to read that, that's okay. There are, let me see, psychological benefits of exercise 77. There are a couple more side panel terms that need to be memorized for sure. So self-esteem, body image, helpful hint. Anytime you see that thumbs up, go ahead and take a look. Body image, self-esteem are related. Write that down. Body image, self-esteem are related. In many cases, they have a mutual relationship, meaning that as body image improves, self-esteem will also likely improve. There you go. Body image, self-esteem. They both go up or they both go down. Sleep apnea, right? Again, if you want, and you got a little bit more time, you can write down, for instance, psychological benefits of exercise. So there's your main heading title. Don't read this, but what are the benefits of exercise? Promotes positive mood. See, what I did is I just took the subheading. I can write that down. Promotes positive mood, improves self-esteem, body image, improves sleep, reduces depression, anxiety. I'm done with my chapter, and I could write those things down without getting into the nit and gritty, the copy, reading it, not necessary. Okay. So that's chapter 3. Remember, chapter highlights. Again, as I was saying, chapter 3 of the 2 chapters probably has less information that is needed to memorize ultimately for the test, but you will get questions for sure from chapter 3. But within domain 2, chapters 3 and 4, generally you're going to probably see more questions in general from chapter 4 when it comes to this domain. So that is the end of chapter 3. Look forward to seeing you in the next chapter. Thanks.